The late Godfrey Lukongwa Binaisa was President of Uganda from July 1979 to May 1980. He was born on May 30, 1920 in Mityana, where his father was the headmaster of the Church of Uganda Mityana Central School. His father Canon Ananias Binaisa (1892–1999), descended from Sakabakakalwi, the 23rd king of Buganda. Thus, though very unpopular with the culturally monarchical Baganda for his role in destroying Buganda Kingdom in I-966, Binaisa was of the royal clan. Canon Binaisa was born at Kiwumu in the Bukoba district of Tanzania, where his parents had fled the 1898–90 religious wars in Buganda. This history led to his son, President Binaisa in 1979–80 being labeled a Tanzanian. Canon Binaisa was an Anglican Christian missionary, working for God's ministry. As Canon Binaisa was a missionary, his wife, Naomi Nantumani Angwe (1897–1985) was the income earner head of the household. The life of the late Godfrey Binaisa was characterized by rejection, contradiction, and conflict with the poverty, ethics, social and political values of his father's missionary calling in the Anglican Church. Because of the poverty in the missionary's home, the late Binaisa, being the firstborn, helped his mother in commercial cash crop agriculture from the age of 8. By 13 years 1932, Binaisa was already making surplus money for all family school fees and other needs. Besides organizing migrant labor in cotton farming, young Binaisa earned a lot more money from selling cotton and buying products like kerosene from Indian traders. Natives were shortchanged in selling to and buying from Indians, but the young Binaisa was so clever that he somehow received more money and bought more goods from the Indians. For a fee, natives would use young Binaisa to sell and buy for them from Indian traders. Canon Binaisa demanded his son be a good Samaritan and provide these commercial services free. On learning that his son somehow cheated Indian traders, Canon Binaisa was enraged. As Binaisa grew, the contradictions with his father extended to lifestyle, religion, economic ethics, etc., and finally to politics. In junior secondary school, the late Binaisa made money by using migrant laborers and natives to find rare live animals, birds, etc., which he sold to Europeans. He bought several luxury shoes, shorts, bicycle, etc., to the annoyance of his father. At Makerere, Binaisa riled his religious father by joining the radical scientific society that sought scientific explanations, challenged religion, and advocated secularism. Because of the association of his son with the 1946–49 Bataka movement, and his betrayal of the leadership, Canon Binaisa lost family and church property to the arson acts of the nationalists. His son initially plotted with the anti-colonial protest groups but switched to the side of the colonial government. In independence politics, Binaisa greatly embarrassed his father, a priest, by joining the Uganda National Congress, UNC, that was associated with anti-religion communist tendencies. When Canon Binaisa retired after 50 years in church service in 1963, he offered to save Buganda from an impending crisis under the Kabaka Yeka movement by serving as chaplain of the Mengo government. During this same period 1963–66, his son Godfrey Binaisa was the leader of the Baganda on the UPC side that were fighting against Mengo. In the battle between Mengo and the UPC government, father and son fought on opposite sides. When Idi Amin overthrew Milton Obote in 1971, angry Baganda looking for Binaisa severely beat Canon Binaisa and destroyed his property for being a parent. Under Amin's rule, Canon Binaisa spent a year in hiding, fearing for his life after security agents killed the father of Sheikh Kamulagia. Whenever Amin complained about Binaisa, the father, who had changed to the name of Jajoko, went into hiding. Since Amin had given wealth to Baganda traders under the economic war, none of them even within the coup wanted to associate with Canon Binaisa, and yet the father was never on good terms with his son. When in 1979, his son became president of Uganda against popular feelings and the midst of violence, Canon Binaisa declined to bless this achievement. Canon Binaisa said his son should not have accepted to be the dumping place for a stolen presidency. This was not the end, Canon Binaisa, who had since 1972 entirely committed his life to establishing the coup at Kamwokya in Kampala, was shunned by the congregation because he was father to the unpopular President Binaisa. The only request that Canon Binaisa made to President Binaisa was to allocate Dairy Corporation powder milk for coup purposes. However, President Binaisa's chit to the Dairy Corporation was ignored. To the embarrassment of Canon Binaisa, the chit from the son to issue milk to the father was exhibited in the NCC Parliament as evidence of family corruption in a no-confidence motion. Unlike other parents, Canon Binaisa and his son were never harmonized. The late Godfrey Binaisa attended non-grade, elementary at Naditku School and Middle School 1927 to 1932 in Mackay Memorial, both at Nadit in the present Lubega Division in Kampala District. During this period, the belief was that it was inhuman to hoard young children in a room for teaching, and thus the norm was for non-grade and elementary classes to be held under trees. Binaisa joined Buddo Junior 1933-36, now King's College for intermediate and junior secondary education. In his pre-college education, Binaisa holds a fantastic achievement of skipping 3 years classes through the express exams process. This is where, for instance, a senior 3 student can sit O-level exams and proceed to A-level upon passing. Binaisa joined Makerere College in 1937 for Cambridge 1937-38 and Medicine 1939-40 when he was dismissed. At Makerere College, Binaisa shared a room in Sejungo House with Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, from Kenya, with whom they became the ideological factories of Makerere. Binaisa was for radical science and Oginga Odinga for liberal arts. On the intellectual side, Binaisa won the Research Cup in 1938 for advances in science research. In 1939, Binaisa received the Forster Prize for his scientific findings on swamp worms. In the same year, Binaisa discovered worm species outside existing entomological taxonomy. The thesis was submitted to Cambridge University. The problem for Binaisa was that by 1939, the colonial law did not allow Uganda natives to be awarded university degrees. Binaisa could not be considered for a doctorate. In student adventure, Binaisa spent the 1937 holiday in Buganda Singo County Prison upon conviction under the then native law preventing boys over 16 years from remaining in school to avoid graduated tax. This case caused issuing of student identity cards at Makerere. These identity cards posed a colonial policy problem that recognized natives only under their tribes and not any other identity. Binaisa was the richest student at Makerere as he sold rare animal skins to European collectors. Binaisa's large collection of stuffed animals, skins and skeletons without a license was seized by the authorities in 1938. They were given to Makerere College and became the foundation for the current Uganda Museum. When World War II broke out, a War Public Information Office was located at Makerere and the students received one of the first radio sets in Uganda for official British war news. Students including Binaisa tampered with the radio and secretly monitored German war information news deep in the time. It happened that in 1940, Germany was winning the war. Binaisa engaged in counteracting official British war news with the truths. He was dismissed at the end of 1944, according to him, supporting Germany in the war. Dismissal. On top of dismissal from Makerere, Binaisa was rusticated from Buganda region and ordered not to speak about the war to any group or individual person in Uganda. Binaisa survived full imprisonment due to intervention by the church and Makerere College. A number of students were dismissed for related reasons. Aged only 20 years, Binaisa went into internal exile in western Uganda. Although Binaisa was more or less on open arrest in internal deportation as a threat to the war, the same British colonial administration condemning him could not resist the temptation of his application for a license to prospect for minerals required by the war industry. In 1941, the East African High Command in Nairobi issued a war emergence clearance order to overlook the racial restrictions on native economic activity then restricted to cash crop growing and grant Binaisa a special license to prospect for war industry and war economy minerals in western Uganda. After laboratory mineral ore tests confirmed 2 viable sites, Binaisa won another concession in the racially restrictive colonial banking law and became the first native Ugandan to acquire a commercial loan. Because Binaisa had manipulated the mineral or chemical tests to reflect inflated financial potential, the first and third mines failed. Binaisa twice filed for bankruptcy before taking off into wealth with a successful wolfram mine. Binaisa's first expense as a wealthy miner was to acquire a special government license to stage a fully Western wedding. The license was necessary for the native guests to his wedding to enter the dogs and Africans not allowed hotel and for them to be served with whiskey, brandy, wine, beer, etc. The British colonial law restricted Africans from European places, lifestyle, and conspicuous goods. Binaisa used a lawyer for the concession. He is the first Ugandan, followed by Kabaka Mutsa in 1948, to conduct a European-style wedding. The 1945 wedding of the young Mtwalo millionaire Binaisa to Ruth Namakula was phenomenal as she was reputed to be the most beautiful girl in Buganda at the time. Marrying such a girl in Buganda tradition as in many pre-modern African beliefs entailed additional expensive rituals purportedly to assuage the gods, deities, and spirits associated with for her beauty. It also required a lot of courage either to ignore the stories or to risk confronting the wrath of the spiritual world actors associated with very beautiful women. From 1947, Binaisa associated with the Bataka movement protests against colonial economic policy in Uganda oppression. He participated in the February 1949 demonstration at the then Baganda bus park. The protests became violent after the April 1949 riots. Binaisa made a turnaround against the protests, betrayed the leaders and colluded in their arrest and prosecution. The Bataka movement started assaulting the collaborators. As the protectorate government was unable to protect its collaborators from the Bataka movement violence, it organized for Binaisa to get asylum in Britain. There the colonial office offered Binaisa, then 29 years old, a scholarship for a course of his choice. He opted for geology and mining at Glasgow University. With the savings from his wolfram mine business, the proceeds from its sale and the generous political scholarship package, Binaisa went on merrymaking spree and forgot studies. He was discontinued at Glasgow University, the scholarship withdrawn and his personal money exhausted. A destitute Binaisa started sleeping at railway stations. After an arrest for vagabond, Binaisa worked as a railway station nighttime cleaner and daytime porter at Paddington in 1951. Binaisa switched to the post office as a postman at night and sorting letters during the day. He became a clerk in the Post Office Savings Bank but was soon fired. He landed into the Indian High Commissioner in London first as a cleaner, but soon promoted to messenger and to clerk for his intelligence. Through his fruitful participation in independence politics committees, Binaisa convinced the Indian High Commission to facilitate his registration for a law course evening studies at King's College, London University. Binaisa became a radical advocate of the India strategy of decolonization. This advocated for vertical integration of ex-British colonies with each rather than continuation of the horizontal colonial relationship with Britain under the British Commonwealth. As Binaisa enjoyed India government funding, Kabaka Mutsa of Buganda was deported to England. Binaisa immediately championed the cause of Mutsa and earned a generous Buganda scholarship. Binaisa again became a very rich student. He dutifully took time off to advocate for the cause of Mutsa and Buganda, while enjoying late-night adventures with the exiled Kabaka. At the end of Mutsa's exile, Binaisa was part of the escort entourage but he over-celebrated the night before and missed the historical flight. He was called to the bar in London and returned to Uganda as a qualified British lawyer in June 1956. Godfrey Lukongwa Binaisa was the fourth president of Uganda. In many circles, he has been called the accidental president given the way he ascended to power. Godfrey Binaisa was born in 1920 to Canon Ananias Binaisa. His father was a well-known preacher. He went to King's College, Buddo, one of the leading schools at the time in the country. Binaisa then qualified as a lawyer in London in 1955. He became a member of the bar at Lincoln's Inn in 1956. On his return to the country, he joined politics at a time when the country was variously fighting for independence. He subsequently joined Uganda National Congress, UNC, and later Uganda People's Congress, UPC. After independence, he was named Uganda's first Attorney General in 1962. He remained in Milton Obote's good books and as one of his right-hand men through most of the post-independence period. In 1967, he helped create the 1967 Constitution, which among other amendments abolished kingdoms in the country and declared Uganda a republic. However, shortly after his role in creating this constitution, he left government work and started a law firm in 1969. He stayed in his law firm, one of the most exotic at the time, until 1972, a year after Milton Obote's government was overthrown by Idi Amin. In 1972, Binaisa claimed that his life was under threat from elements of Idi Amin, prompting him to flee to exile. Binaisa worked as a lawyer in London and US between 1972 and 79. It is while there that he rose to the level of Queen's Counsel. However, even when he was away, he was quietly involved and following the anti-Amin struggle in the country. When Amin was overthrown, he returned to Uganda and took part in various meetings as part of the post-Amin era. It was through these meetings that he was spotted as a possible figurehead and hence named to the top office and officially became President of Uganda in June 1979. His sojourn as the leader of this country came at a time when Uganda was going through a very turbulent time. The capital city, Kampala, was awash with all kinds of artillery. Murders, looting and robberies were the order of the day. Many people, especially in the central region, were not happy that he had replaced their favorite Yusuf Lul as president. In addition, there was also internal acrimony against his presidency. In a bid to try and assert his own control, he deployed the powerful Major General David Oyot Ajak to Algeria as ambassador. He also tried to introduce his own system of governance, which he called the umbrella, Minvuli, under which those standing for political office would do so without necessarily belonging to any political party. He lost the presidency in May 1980 after 11 months as president. Soon, he sneaked out of the country through Kenya and back to the US, where he went back to practicing law. In the late 80s, shortly after the NRM government came to power, he was rumored to have started an armed group to fight against the new regime. He returned to Uganda in 1999 and settled back at home. Occasionally, he would make public appearances at functions. Among other things, he also taught primary school children in Kyenjra, near his residence. In 2004, he remarried 56-year-old Yamamoto, at the city town clerk's office, and even publicly declared that he had regained his youth. The marriage did not, however, work out. In later years, he was in and out of hospital suffering from various illnesses. He died in 2010, aged 91 years old. Thank you for watching this video.